know, what is it that enables people to create financial security for themselves, to understand their finances? And, you know, why is it some people can and some people can't? So the research uncovered 4 basic things around being in control of your finances and building wealth over your lifetime. And the first one is this word called frugality, which is not a nice word. But basically, it's the relationship between your spending and your income. So in simple terms, it means don't spend all your money. You need to be able to save. And I know that this can be really difficult for a lot of people because sometimes there simply isn't enough money to save. But building financial security, building financial wealth requires some level of saving. The second one is confidence. So this is developing the skills and ability to build and maintain wealth. And this is where financial literacy sits, but it's also about budgeting and planning. And planning is a key driver of financial well-being. People who think more than 10 years ahead have significantly more income saved. The third positive financial behavior is responsibility. And this is basically taking ownership and responsibility for your financial outcomes. So not blaming the government, the system, the economy, maybe even the patriarchy or other people for your problems. These are things you can't control. So it is easy and convenient to blame them. And the minute you start blaming outside factors, you lose not only your power and control to turn things around, but also the motivation to do so. And at the same time, believing that external factors have more power over your future than your own choices or actions is a recipe for stress and losing sleep. So responsibility is focusing on what you can control, taking ownership of it, and learning how to make good decisions around it. And the last one is social indifference. And this is the ability not to be influenced by spending behaviors, material possessions of others, as well as trends in consumer goods and services. And most importantly now, the endless messages from media to buy this, wear this, drive that. Most people compare up. When they compare, and the more you compare up, the more stress you have, the less your satisfaction, the lower your savings and the higher your spending. So just finally on that, what's really important to understand about these behaviors is they all have a strong emotional component. It is hard to budget if thinking about money makes you feel anxious. Social indifference is hard to practice if you have low self-esteem. So all of these behaviors and patterns around money have an emotional component. And that's why developing positive financial behaviors starts with understanding these patterns, and that's where money coaching comes in. So understanding our relationship with money is important because if you want to learn how to do something, if you learn how to do something better, if you want to learn how to get good with something, then understanding your relationship is the cornerstone of that process. And what I mean by that is that in terms of our relationship with money is, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about money? How do I feel about money and myself? So let's start with myself. People who are good with finances feel good about themselves. So I am competent. I have confidence in my knowledge and decision-making processes. I take ownership of my outcomes. My self-worth does not depend on my net worth or my possessions. So that's back to social indifference. That's about taking ownership. That's about agency. That's about how I feel about myself and my capacities and my capabilities. I feel good about money means that money is simply a tool to achieve well-being. It's not the work of the devil, the root of all evil, something we don't talk about. It's not this unknown or confusing thing that I don't understand. So if you grew up in an environment where people didn't talk about money, or they told you it was wrong, or they hushed you when you did, it's really hard to understand that, because money wasn't talked about, and money was considered to be, you know, something wrong. And it isn't. In broad terms, it's just a tool for well-being. It's just this thing that we use so to make buying and selling things much easier. And when I feel good about money and myself, then money or thinking about money doesn't make me feel anxious, ashamed, guilty. And I'm comfortable engaging with the financial system. I'm the kind of person who manages their finances well. So that's the core part of a healthy relationship with money. And this has to be shown, it has to be taught, it has to be modeled. And if it wasn't modeled for you growing up, so for example, saving, which is an unnatural activity, human beings have never saved. We never grew up in an environment where saving was necessary, at least from an evolutionary perspective. If this behavior wasn't modeled for you when you grow up, as you were growing up, then you won't do it naturally. It's not necessarily about making fantastic decisions, it's avoiding bad decisions. And avoiding bad decisions, if you look at some of the most successful investors in the world, they make a few good decisions and they're usually good, but they don't get themselves trapped in bad decisions. There's a couple of things here. One is good debt, bad debt. Don't get trapped in high interest debt. Don't get trapped in credit card debt. And if you do, then go and negotiate with a bank or someone to reduce it, because it's really, really hard to do anything if you're paying 30 or 40%. Overdraft interest is 40% to 50%. So try and set yourself up for success in these spaces. Don't pay overdraft charges. Don't pay credit card charges. Set yourself up so that if you are approaching your overdraft limit, you get an alert from your bank. If you're approaching your credit card limit, you get an alert from your credit card provider, because then you've got a chance to make adjustments to whatever it is, transfer some money in or whatever. Don't pay unnecessary banking charges. Try and reduce that debt, or try and work out whether you have an income problem or a spending problem. And that comes back to understanding what your finances are, where your money goes, and basically budgeting for it. These are not fun things to do, but luckily you've got apps on actually, I think most banks have apps now, but certainly if you've got a Monzo or Revolut or any of those cards, all your spending can be broken down and you can just look at it and go, right, this is where it's going.